Okay, Thursday edition on the After Show. Got Wink and Justice with you. Wink over here on the East Coast.
And Justice on the west coast of the contiguous United States of America. It is, thank God, it's Giovedi. Yes, we honor the great God Joe, folks, because Thursday is truly the gateway to the weekend. And that used to actually mean something very nice back in the day.
Yeah.
Whereas now the weekend just, it's not a time to rest anymore, Wink.
No, not at all.
But we'll talk about that in just a moment after I find out how you are doing.
Not bad, not bad. It is 46 degrees, and that's pretty much the high for the day again. Heading down to about 38, 39 later today. So a tad on the nippy side, but yeah, fall has sprung, as they say, I guess. Mind to get in the chat. Just go to netrootsradio.com, scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that. Join us there.
And the contribute donate buttons are definitely located to the leftish of the chat room link. Put there for your perusal, because the Soros checks are not coming in.
No.
We're not affiliated with RT, Russia Today.
No.
We're we're here for you, and thank you for your generosity, truly, for that. Okay, well, here along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it is currently 39 degrees. We're going to be a tad warmer today. They are expecting us to go to 80.
Yeah.
You know, I figure, 78 to 80.
Yep.
That's the range. So that's sort of what we were at yesterday, around 77. Oh, that's for you. And winds are out of the south at negligible, meaning around 2 miles per hour, but will increase later on to their usual 5 to 10. Pressure is holding at 30.4 inches, visibility at 8 miles, humidity at 86%. Air quality index is good at 29 parts. Well, fabulous. I guess we're going to have a nice day out. It's going to be a nice Halloween weekend, because I think, this is what's rough. Do people go trick-or-treating on the weekend before? Or do they wait for the weekend after? Or do they do it the night of, which is a school night?
Yeah.
And from my long experience, it'll be all three.
Exactly.
This weekend, Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever it is, and then next weekend. We're gonna get it all. That's that.
That's the way to do it.
But I'm presuming that people will be doing it this weekend if they don't do it on a school night. I would never send my kids out on a school night. You don't miss school. There's no reason to miss school. There was no excuses for missing school. You had to be sent home by the school nurse, just like it was when I was growing up.
Exactly.
I'm serious. The only way that I could ever get out of school is if I was so sick. The school nurse said, well, he's so sick he can get other kids sick. Get this kid out of here. And then I could go home.
Yep. About it.
Which kind of got me into the idea that I actually liked being at school, to be honest with you.
Yep. There you go.
I had a reason to go to school every day. And, and in the process, just by, osmosis, I got to actually become educated, Wink. It was weird how that worked.
Yeah.
But, so I'm still, I mentioned this by way of the fact that I'm still a little under the weather. After the show yesterday, Wink, I don't want to say I collapsed, but I couldn't get going. And then I decided, screw this, I'm sleeping most of the day.
There you go. Yep.
Did the little ginger, lemon, sugar elixir thing, to sort of, break things up and sweat a little bit. Ooh, boy. But I've got too much to do today because it's going to be a weekend. It's going to be a big weekend. It's Halloween weekend. Come on.
Yeah. Yep.
I do have my grandkids and my sons coming down to visit for the weekend, so I got to get ready for that. Still having somewhat of the construction going on, so it's all very interesting. When I say construction, they built the dams around the access hatches, up in the ceiling, and now hopefully they'll be spraying the cellulose insulation tomorrow. I was hoping it would be today, but it better be tomorrow, because I got people coming in. Come on. Okay, weather from around the world is brought to you by people who have purchased weather stations, and they put these weather stations on their property, and these people live around the world. Okay. London is, hold on, let me get my cursor up here. London is 61 and mostly cloudy. Paris is 58 with fog. Rome is 69 and clear. Kiev is 49 and clear. Kabul, 72 and clear. Hong Kong is 77 and clear. Tokyo is 57 and clear. But Sydney, Australia is 59 with rain. San Francisco, California is 63 degrees and clear. And New York is 56 degrees Fahrenheit and overcast. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's weather stations that they purchased and they live around the world. Okay, Mark Halpern's out. I guess because he was being kind of a dick. Yeah. You got to go way back to know that association. Mark Halpern, when the black president first became president, everybody was astounded that there was a black president. They just couldn't stand it. And so, I don't know, it seemed like they were out to, undermine everything that he was. And Mark Halpern said on a live feed, which was, regular TV, I think ABC. And he said, they were asking him, well, you're with the Obama press corps, what's it like? And God, I'm trying to think exactly what it was that Obama could have been. I think there was some tragedy that occurred, right? And Obama was being Obama, heartfelt and complete, and trying to figure out how we got here and how we can get to a point where we can be better from this. And Halpern went on ABC News and said, well, I think Obama was being kind of a dick. Now, if you don't know, Mark Halpern has been let go from everything because of accusations of, sexual harassment on the job.
Okay. Yeah, I missed that one, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. So Mark Halpern was literally being kind of a dick. And karma, I got to tell you, karma is like a room full of ping pong balls placed deftly on mouse traps that have been set, and you let one off, you're going to get hit by something. That is karma. And it couldn't have happened to a more odorous individual, except, then you got O'Reilly. What the? I don't know. Is this some sort of game? I don't get it. These boorish personalities, what kind of message are we giving the kids? I mean, isn't that something we heard all the time? Like, what about the kids?
Yeah. Yep.
Sounds like the street cleaner's coming up, and good. I'm glad he is. So if you hear some machinery in the background,
there you go.
It's because I live in, so far, somewhat of a civilized state.
Right.
State of being. I wouldn't say Oregon. I wouldn't say Oregon on the whole is civilized. Jeez.
Right.
I don't know. All right. So these are issues that we will be attending to today. And they are. I don't know. Remember when we had like a democracy week, civic involvement, encouraged to be civically involved?
Yeah. Yep.
Remember those days? God, it didn't seem so long ago either.
No, they don't.
Well,
they don't.
Los Angeles police are arresting people for speaking 20 seconds longer than their allotted time at public city hearings. Misdemeanor charge for you, lock you up for a few days. That'll teach you to come to this public hearing.
Exactly.
And they are, I guess, following the law. You had 2 minutes. You spoke 20 seconds longer. We got to put the cuffs on you and take your ass out of here. And they have a jail at City Hall. I've not been in the jail, but I've seen it.
Yep.
Oh, my God. The
So they don't have
Alabama
to go very far to lock you up. Actually, it's right there.
There you go. The Alabama elections chief wants to send citizens to prison for 5 years for changing political parties and then voting. Yeah, they have this law that you can't change parties from the primary to the general. And anybody who has done that. Now this is the first time the law has been implemented. But, he is following the letter of the law, isn't he?
Right.
I don't think anybody changing political affiliations to vote for Trump or any Trump-backed thing is going to fear a 5-year prison sentence. Okay. I really don't think so. And a Georgia election server is quietly wiped clean the day a suit is filed against state election officials. Well, that's coincidental. Jeez. Well, on the last half, this just burns me up. We are such... What have we become? A 10-year-old immigrant girl is detained after armed border agents stopped the ambulance that was taking her to emergency gallbladder surgery. And you know what these ghouls did, Wink? They waited outside the door, armed, until this 10-year-old girl was released from recovery, and they took her to... She has cerebral palsy. So that's what we become. Who does that? Whoever did that in the history that we can probably chronicle? Yeah, Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the people that are working doing that? Oh, yeah, I'm going to arrest this little immigrant girl because, it says right here she has cerebral palsy, but we really know she has MS-13.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I don't think this is a bug, but truly a feature. Ongoing threats to Representative Frederica Wilson's life are preventing her from casting votes in Washington. If you don't remember who Frederica Wilson is, she's the friend of the widow, Aisha Johnson, whose husband was killed. And okay, I mean, let's okay.
Yep.
Because that's how it works. And of course, the widow is getting death threats as well. What kind of nation have we become? Who would do that in the history that we can chronicle?
Yeah.
All right, all that, plus the Connect Unite Act Daily Codes community calendar. And if you can't tell there's more, well, I don't know. I know you do. And on the after show with that ever so fine fellow over there on the East Coast, his name is Wink, and this guy back over here on the West Coast, my name is Justice, and we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish, usually a smidgen more. In this particular specific and ever peculiar tear in the fabric of space-time, because who loves you, baby?
Exactly.
I like to think that Kojak and Columbo weren't like pinching women's asses. I like to think that, but you never know. These longtime icons I like to, Kojak and Columbo. But you never know. Tough. I have to say, it's not as if I've ever been an angel in my life. I don't like to think I ever raped someone. I don't think it was like that. But, I've been, kind of a dick. So I think more of us need to come to terms with that, don't we? It's probably one of the reasons why, I kind of recognize that I would always substitute like themes or memes and see how it worked. It it would never occur to me to, use the N-word against someone, for instance. So when it occurred to me that if I used the B word for a woman, it was like the N-word. Why would I do that? Why would I call a woman a B? What was behind that? But I got to tell you, I would throw that term around quite deftly, shall we say. Why was that? Especially since we were raised to consider, our fellow citizens as equal and with protection and due process. All of us. I would never think of, enslaving, a racial identified group of people. Why would I want to do that to a woman? I mean, after a while, it didn't make any sense to me, Wink, In somewhat similar fashion of how weird it was to go to Mass on Sunday and in some sort of magic incantation, this bread and wine actually turned into flesh and blood. That was creepy. I got to tell you, that kind of creeped me out. So I always went up there and said, it's just really bread. And it represents, the giving and sharing of what Christ, wanted us to believe, we're getting the sustenance and nutrients of love and sharing and all that. But the actual creepy, huh? Wouldn't get me in one of those Mayan, sacrifices to the sun god.
Yep.
I couldn't do it with transubstantiation, let alone the real thing. Okay, Los Angeles police. They know how to run a democracy, Wink. Except I don't think it's a democracy. It's just crazy. I don't understand. I mean, aren't the city council people their bosses? Probably not anymore. I mean, do the city council have an armory? This is by Emily C. Bell out of Alternate. The Los Angeles Police Department has been arresting residents for speaking 20 seconds longer than their allotted time at public city meetings. Now, the ACLU of Southern California is fighting an ordinance that could make it even harder for residents to speak out, especially those who dissent against the practices of the LAPD. Are you trying to put some sort of oversight on us? Don't you know that you're little people? If you're not cop, you're little people. Remember that. That's from the original Blade Runner. That's how come Deckard came back and became a Blade Runner. Because if you're not cop, you're little people. All right. And Blade Runner was set in a dystopian Los Angeles. The movie. The book, San Francisco. But dystopian L.A. worked really good. And the Ray Bradbury building, Wink. That's where they were at. Still stands so far. And if passed, the ordinance will make it an arrestable offense to violate any posted rules of public facilities. No fidgeting for longer than 10 seconds. You fidgeted for 15 seconds, we got to take your ass to jail. Okay. And it would empower law enforcement to make criminal trespass charges, tighten restrictions on speaking time, and shut down criticism at public hearings. What? Well, maybe this is a reason. I see something in a more macro sense too, Wink. There's a push to not criticize, have fewer, but only to praise. If you want to say something in public, it better be good, or else we're going to have to do a little bit of social engineering, won't we? Pushing back on the proposed restrictions, the ACLU is circulating a petition targeted at council members, and they made a public call for action on Wednesday morning. Okay, the LAPD are arresting people for speaking 20 seconds over their time at public hearings. This is a tweet that the ACLU of Southern California put out. So the tweet comes after Melanie Ocha, a staff attorney at the ACLU of Southern California, who sent a letter Tuesday morning to LA Mayor Eric Garcetti and Los Angeles City Council members. The letter calls on them to reject the proposed ordinance because, although styled as a public safety ordinance, it would do nothing to improve public safety. And the letter goes on to reference two specific cases in which residents were removed from meetings at the Board of Police Commissioners. They weren't actually at a city council meeting. They were at a public hearing of the police. And, I got to tell you, the mindset of today's modern police isn't really one of like give and take, but it is of compliance. And they don't mean that they have to comply with you.
Right.
Okay? Let's be clear. The LAPD had the most officer-involved killings in 2015 and 2016, according to the UK Guardian. When the data is compared to cities with similar populations, the rate of fatal encounters was higher in LA than both Chicago and New York last year. So part of the duty of public officials is to bear the brunt, this is the ACLU writing in this letter, of the public's displeasure as well as of expressions of gratitude and satisfaction. City Council's irritation is not a public safety threat, and the serious consequences of criminal law should be limited to conduct that actually poses a risk to the safety of others. And then the letter gives an example of 81-year-old Tut Hayes. A video posted shows Hayes speaking at a meeting in 2016 before being forcibly removed from the room while onlookers yell at the police to let him go. 82. And I will assure you that they weren't gentle with this gentleman. Oh, and did I mention he was black? So, let's see here. Black Lives Matter organizer Professor Milena Abdullah tweeted about Hayes in light of the ACLU's call to action, saying that Mr. Hayes was dragged and arrested at 82 years old for allegedly speaking off topic. Okay.
The old off topic, yeah.
There you go. Abdullah has been removed from several Board of Police Commissioners meetings. As the LA Times reported in May of 2016, an LAPD spokesman said Abdullah was removed from the room by officers and later arrested on suspicion of resisting arrest.
Why not?
And she had been arrested for speaking 20 seconds over the 2-minute public comment limit. All right. And the ACLU letter also includes claims the orders could allow for selectivity in enforcement, giving the content of public remarks. That's right. Okay. Well, doesn't sound like democracy to me. Sounds like some sort of banana republic. Speaking of banana republics, what is it about people that just don't want Americans to vote? Kira Lerner from Think Progress penned this piece. Alabama Republican Secretary of State wants potentially 674 Alabama citizens who voted both in this year's Democratic primary and Republican runoff elections in violation of a new law to be charged with a felony and imprisoned for 5 years. That'll teach them. Secretary of State John Merrill's office has referred the names of 674 people who voted in the August Democratic primary and then last month's Republican runoff for local elections officials, tasking them with investigating the list for errors. Okay, they gave the names of these people to local elections officials. Prosecutors will then decide whether to bring charges against the individuals for violating the crossover voting ban signed by Governor Kay Ivey, Republican, in May to prevent members of one party from meddling in the other party's election. What?
Yeah.
You mean like the Republicans have been doing in that area for I don't know how long? But now they have an opportunity. It's typical. Now, I'll just skip to the chase here about what this article is about and what the issue really is. That, okay, you have the law, but you kind of have some sort of grace period because, first of all, they didn't really announce that the law was such. Apparently, many of these precincts, had been investigated in real time about what they knew of the law, and many of them didn't know about it. Well, other than there was a printed posted sign in a corner of the place, precinct where people voted, sometimes obscured by curtains where people would go and vote. And it was never advertised on, television or radio about these restrictions. And people went to vote as they always had. Always. And so, of course, there's going to be a lot of people who, even if they had advertised and had been blanketed with this information, you're still going to have a percentage of people who just didn't know. So it seems a bit draconian, but, hey, you want to keep people from voting, one good way to do it is to give them a felony, put them in jail for 5 years, and never allow them to vote again anyway.
Beautiful. Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
And it also has, they do mention in the article, it does have the stench of Chris Kobach as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, of course. Okay, this is an interesting predicament here. This is by Frank Bajak from the Associated Press. A computer server crucial to a lawsuit against Georgia election officials was quietly wiped clean by its custodians just after the suit was filed. Custodians. They were just waxing the floor. First, they have to strip all of the old wax off a week.
Right.
Okay. And then everything's wiped clean, and they get to put a new coat of wax down. They were just custodians. They didn't know there was data there. Okay, the server's data was destroyed July 7th by technicians at the Center for Election Systems at Kennesaw State University, which runs the state's election system. The data wipe was revealed in an email sent last week from an assistant state attorney general to plaintiffs in the case that was obtained by the AP. More emails obtained in public records requests confirmed the wipe. The lawsuit, filed by a diverse group of election reform advocates, aims to force Georgia to retire its antiquated and heavily criticized election technology. Of course, I will posit that there's got to be a faction in Georgia politics that thinks things were working just fine. Machinery that are easily hackable, why would we want to tighten that up? Okay. The server in question, which served as a statewide staging location for key election-related data, made national headlines in June after a security expert disclosed a gaping security hole that wasn't fixed 6 months after he reported it to election officials. Because he went in there, said, I just found this gaping hole. Said, good, okay, yeah, we know. They put it there, Wink. Okay, it's not clear who ordered the server's data irretrievably erased. I get my suspicions. The Kennesaw Election Center answers to Georgia's Secretary of State Brian Kemp, a Republican who was running for governor in 2018 and the main defendant in the suit. A spokeswoman for the Secretary of State's office said Wednesday that we did not have anything to do with the decision, adding that the office also had no advance warning of the move. We didn't have anything to do with the decision. And the center's director, Michael Barnes, referred questions to the university's press office, which then declined to comment. Plaintiffs in the lawsuit, who are mostly Georgia voters, want to scrap the state's 15-year-old vote management system, particularly the 27,000 AccuVote touchscreen voting machines. Hackable devices that don't use paper ballots, keep a hard copy proof of voter intent, or any sort of paper trail. Anything, Wink. So when you have a recount, you can't use those for a recount, can you? There's nothing to recount. I don't know. Like I said, I think Georgia officials pretty much think that things are running just fine. It could be possible to recover relevant information from the server. The FBI is known to have made exact data image of the server in March when it investigated the security hole. The email that disclosed the server wipe said the Attorney General's office was reaching out to the FBI to determine whether they still have the image. Because they want to make sure that they don't commit a crime by going out there and saying, you guys don't know what you're talking about. And then the mirror image shows up and it shows exactly that they were committing a crime. Yeah, I can see that. Okay, let's see. A 140-page collection of Kennesaw State emails obtained last Friday by the Coalition of Good Governments via an open record search details the destruction of the data on all three servers and a partial and ultimately ineffective effort by Kennesaw State Systems engineers to fix the main server's security hole. As a result of the failed effort, sensitive data on Georgia's 6.7 million voters, including their social security numbers, party affiliation, birth dates, passwords used by election officials to access elections management files, remained exposed for months, where they could easily be translated into Cyrillic for easy use later. I'm sorry, that I added that last part. But we know that anything can happen. An attacker could have even modified ballot building files to corrupt the count. But it will be impossible to know for sure unless the FBI provides a copy of the server image for analysis. Okay, well, we'll see about that. Let's get to our new Jim Hightower break. We'll come back, go through the Connect Unite Act Daily Coast community calendar, and finish up with the last half. You are listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio with Wink and Justice, and we will be right back.
Good news, people. At last, congressional Democrats have gotten a clue, grown some spine, and are beginning to act like Democrats. In particular, a majority of Dems in the U.S. House are responding to the rising public demand that decent health care be treated as a right for everyone, rather than being rationed by profiteering insurance conglomerates. Nearly 6 of 10 in the House have now signed on to Representative John Conyers' Medicare for All bill, which is being carried in the Senate by Bernie Sanders. So, hallelujah, progress. Yes, but there are many speed bumps to overcome before the Democratic Party gets onto the moral high road of politics. Representative Nancy Pelosi, for one. When the leader of House Democrats was asked if the party should make health care for all a major issue in Congress and in the 2018 elections, she replied with a flat no. Basically, Pelosi says the American people aren't ready for it. by which she really means that the narrow slice of the public that inhabits her world, health industry executives, lobbyists, and campaign donors, aren't ready. Meanwhile, a good 60% of regular Americans are damn sure ready, telling pollsters that our government has a responsibility to ensure that everyone gets the care they need. Let's be blunt. When it comes to the fiery leadership that America's grassroots people want and need, the Democratic Party establishment is weaker than Canadian hot sauce. When you've got 60% of your party's rank-and-file congressional members ready to go, and 60% of the public is also ready to go, it's time to go. The National Party's leadership must get going on health care for all, or the leadership itself must go. This is Jim Hightower saying, to help push both the party and the health care for all issue forward, go to nationalnursesunited.org.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And indeed, we are back. And thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Lincoln Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York 21 on the East Coast. Our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud, whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio and thus by extension the After Show to span the globe, the solar system, and beyond. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Street Sweeper is still roaming around, so there might be a small little rumble in the background. Once again, I apologize, but this is live radio.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, I guess he's on the way out. Okay, so today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast Community Diary is facilitated as it is every Thursday by Paradise 50. And he opens up with, everyone here knows I'm really into science, especially medical science. And indeed he is, and he has quite a little bit of a informative essay on brain development and other things that you might be interested in. So do go read Paradise 50's introduction to the calendar today. Events currently scheduled are New England Cossacks are meeting up November 4th in Kittery, Maine, which is right on the border with New Hampshire, at the Farm Bar and Grill at high noon. Ed Hawks 42 has a post with more details, and RSVP to edhawks42 at gmail.com. San Francisco Cossacks will be welcoming T. Burchard to the Bay Area, also Saturday, November 4th at 6:30 p.m. at the Velvet Cantina, 3349 23rd Street in the Mission. And that's on 23rd and Bartlett between Mission and Valencia near the 24th Street Mission Mart. Yes, actually just a block up from 23rd, so not so bad. And Cosmale Navajo to attend that event. And Seattle and Puget Sound Cossacks are tentatively scheduling their next meeting for noon on Saturday, January 20th. So Cosmale Eagle of Freedom for more details, which will be forthcoming, and do RSVP if you're in that area. Also, don't forget, Netroots Nation is in New Orleans, August 2nd through 4th, 2018.
Yes.
All right.
Indeed.
I'm going to bring some beignets home.
Yeah, there you go.
From New Orleans. See how well they travel. Meaning, they're probably going to get eaten before I even get to the airport. But, you know. And that is your That is your Connect Unite Ag Daily Co's community calendar for the 26th of October of 2017. Okay. All right, let's get rid of these old tabs here. Oh, good. That's nice. The New York Times, I get so many articles a month, right? And so I was afraid that every time I open up a window, it counts as an article, but it's the same article and it doesn't count against my total.
I like that.
Yeah. So there you go. Yep. This is by Vivian Yee and Caitlin Dickerson out of the New York Times. A 10-year-old girl with cerebral palsy has been detained by federal immigration authorities in Texas after she passed through a Border Patrol show me your papers checkpoint on her way to a hospital to undergo emergency gallbladder surgery. The girl, Rose Maria Hernandez, who was brought over the border illegally to live in Laredo, Texas when she was 3 months old. I hate the term. She wasn't brought over illegally. She didn't have papers. She was undocumented. Got it. Well, she was being transferred from a medical center in Laredo to a hospital in Corpus Christi around 2 a.m. on Tuesday when Border Patrol agents stopped the ambulance with sirens and lights flashing by the way. So they could see what the hell was going on. Were there any Mexicans in here? The agents allowed her to continue to Driscoll Children's Hospital, her family said, but followed the ambulance the rest of the way there, then waited outside her room until she was released from the hospital. Nice. By Wednesday evening, according to family members and advocates involved in her case, immigration agents had taken her to a facility in San Antonio where migrant children who arrive alone in the U.S. from Central America are usually held, even though her parents, who both lack legal status, live 150 miles away in Laredo. Her placement there highlighted the unusual circumstances of her case. The federal government maintains detention centers for adult immigrants it plans to deport, facilities for families who arrive at the border together, and shelters for children who come by themselves, known as unaccompanied minors. But it is rare, if not unheard of, for a child already living in the United States to be arrested, particularly one with a serious medical condition. Well, I would say that maybe they figure she can't run away. It would be too difficult to actually go after the immigrants they said they were going to go after, the ones who are really a danger to the community. That takes effort, and let's be clear here. Somebody might get hurt. And then there'll be workman's comp claims to pay out. We're not talking about civil cases brought by those individuals hurt by the police. I'm talking about the border agents who stubbed their toe, and the next thing you know, you're paying out these workman's comp claims for the next 5 years.
Yep. Or 10.
But if you arrest a 10-year-old girl with cerebral palsy who had emergency gallbladder surgery, nobody's getting hurt in that one that matters. No one that matters will get hurt. Immigration agents have detained some teenagers who were suspected members in gangs like MS-13. Maybe they thought cerebral palsy is like multiple sclerosis, and multiple sclerosis is known as MS. Maybe that's what triggered their lizard brains, wink.
There you go.
Yep. The gang that Trump and Attorney General Jeff Sessions have repeatedly condemned. Yes, they're all MS-13. You never know, this girl may wake up and be a terrorist. I mean, she has nothing going for her, so she could potentially be a suicide bomber. That's called thought policing, isn't it? Rosemaria's cousin, Aurora Cantu, a United States citizen who was riding with her in the ambulance and accompanied her to the hospital. Ooh, what did I just do? Okay. Told Rosemaria's mother and others working on the case that the agents had at first tried to persuade the family to agree to have the girl transferred to a Mexican hospital, pressing the family to sign a voluntary departure form for her. Ghouls. They declined to do so. The entire time Rosemaria was in surgery and then in recovery, several armed Border Patrol agents stood outside her hospital room because she's such a danger to society. Think of that. Think of all the man hours involved in that. Think of that. Is this a proper way to spend our money? We got to pay $70 entrance fees to Yosemite now? And the Grand Canyon? Well, Zinke flies on jets, first class and, private jets. These guys stand around, a dozen of them standing around, making how much per hour to arrest a 10-year-old girl who has cerebral palsy getting out of emergency gallbladder surgery. I guess if you got beds to fill at the private prison, you got to fill them somehow, right?
There you go. Yep.
Her mother, Felipa de la Cruz, age 39, said in an interview that her family had moved to Texas from Nuevo Laredo, the city in Mexico just across the border from Laredo, when her daughter was still an infant, hoping to get better treatment for cerebral palsy. They couldn't afford the therapies in Mexico, but they were able to here, which included home visits from therapists. I'm a mother. All I wanted was for her to get the surgery she needed. It never crossed my mind that any of what is happening right now could happen. When you're a mother, all you care about is your child. Which also gave the lie to this whole thing about family values that we always heard from this group.
Yep.
They don't care about family values. It's a dodge because they're hateful, evil, racist, bigoted, small-minded lizard brains. I know that's probably the small-minded lizard brain is a redundancy, but, when I'm on a roll.
Yeah. Keep going. Yep.
Rosemary's doctors have recommended that she be released to a relative because of her illness. But the immigration agency has not yet consented to release her. Representative Henry Cuellar, a Democrat who represents the Laredo area in Congress, called on Wednesday for the girl to be released back to her family. I understand that Customs Border Patrol has a tremendous duty to protect our nation, he said in a statement referring to the Customs and Border Protection. But we should be devoting our resources and focus on bigger threats. Yes, indeed. First, kiss their ass, because you got to do that now. You're doing such a great job. Your mission to round up everybody in the most Gestapo-like fashion, you're doing really well. But, I don't know. Spokesman for the agency did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Of course not. The fact that they spent so much time and resources to follow this girl, to treat her like she was the highest priority criminal that ever walked on this earth, the way they're treating her is just beyond what a 10-year-old special needs child should be treated, says Priscilla Martinez, an activist at the Workers' Defense Action Fund, which is helping to plan rallies for Rosemaria in Laredo and Corpus Christi. Rosemaria's case is perhaps the most extreme example in recent memory of a dilemma that stalks unauthorized immigrants who live in the Rio Grande Valley, south of the Border Patrol checkpoints. Getting specialized medical care often requires going to doctors and hospitals farther north, but crossing the checkpoints could mean detention and deportation. We're not talking about checkpoints on the border. We're talking about checkpoints sometimes hundreds of miles from the border. But as long as we're finding brown people who we want to kick out of this country for any reason at all, it's a good way to spend money, isn't it?
Hell yeah.
It was because of being stopped at those checkpoints that her parents were absent when she was rushed to Corpus Christi, leaving her cousin, Miss Cantu, to accompany the young girl to the hospital. Okay. Well. Emergency gallbladder surgery. An ambulance with sirens blaring, lights flashing, still has to stop at the Border Patrol checkpoint. Which I guess makes sense because you don't know. I mean, it could really be some sort of ISIS terrorist masquerading as an ambulance. I mean, you have to consider that, I suppose. There's still people, from the Vegas shooting. Remember that? Remember, like almost 60 people got killed in Vegas, 600 were shot.
Yep.
Hardly anybody remembers that anymore.
I know, it's 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
But
long time ago.
so many people. The first thing that came to their mind is that they were being attacked by ISIS.
Yeah,
instead of who really is killing people in America, it is exactly the white, crazy Looney Tune gun nut. Oh yeah, came across a story too about survivors already getting death threats because they were crisis actors and the whole thing was fake. What kind of country do we live in? Jesus. It's just so sick. Yep. Speaking of sick. Yeah, yesterday at a press conference, Bush said he has a better memory than the widow. He called the widow a liar. That he has one of the great memories of all time. Well, if he had such a great memory, how come he needed a chart that he admitted to? He says, I had a chart right there, and I have one of the great memories of all time. Well, if you have one of the great memories of all time, why did you need a chart to know the soldier's name was David Johnson? How is that possible? But if you're an elected official, and even if you're not, but if you're an elected official who just happens to be a woman and also just happens to be black, yep, the weight of the world will suddenly be put upon you. This is out of McClatchy, Washington Bureau by Alex Doherty. Congressional Democrats celebrated Representative Frederica Wilson on Wednesday by wearing stickers adorned with a red cowboy hat and posing for a group picture on the steps of the Capitol. But one notable person was missing, Wilson herself. A source close to Wilson confirmed that the Florida Democrat was not in Washington this week due to ongoing threats against her after she criticized Donald Trump's handling of a conversation with the family of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson, who was killed during a October 4th ambush in Niger. Congressional vote tallies show that Wilson last voted on October 12th before the House adjourned for a week-long break. She has missed 19 votes between Monday and Wednesday of this week. Nothing else would keep her from voting, the source said. And Wilson did not respond to a request for comment. They shut up another black woman, Wink. She's hiding out. She can't even talk. I can understand her advisor saying, look, every time you open your mouth, every time you show your face, these Looney Tunes go crazy and they want to kill you. Sounds like brown shirt BS to me, but, I don't know. Yep. I guess maybe if you have an actual historical perspective, it might bias your opinion. Jesus.
Yep.
She's home, said Representative Alcee Hastings, a Florida Democrat. I've not spoken with her about it, but I've heard that she's received substantial death threats. And I think she is doing everything she can to ratchet that down and let some of us, including me, take over. That's probably what other congressional Democrats advised her to. We'll carry the ball for it now. There's no need for you to be in the lead for this. You're too much of a target. David did bring up a good point as he announced, our issues that we attend to. Where's her Secret Service protection?
Right.
Jared and Ivanka got it. Where's hers? Now, Hastings did say that expected Wilson return next week. One racist threat against Wilson that surfaced on Facebook by a Chicago area man is being investigated by the police. I need 10 good men to help carry out a lynching, the Post said. Must have own horse and saddle. Rope will be provided. This congresswoman is a disgusting pig. Someone should take a boot to her face. Source close to Wilson said that there are some ongoing investigations into threats on the congresswoman. I want to repeat that. Investigations, plural, into threats, plural, on the congresswoman. Wilson was in the national spotlight for days last week after she said Trump was disrespectful to Johnson's widow, Maisha, by saying her husband had known what he was getting into by joining the army and calling him your guy instead of using his name. Trump then unloaded on Wilson on Twitter. The fake news is going crazy with wacky Congresswoman Wilson, who was secretly on a very personal call and gave a total lie on content. That whole statement that he made was a lie. There's no secret. She wasn't on the call secretly. See, this is the way the guy's mind works. He's a mobster. Never occurred to him that, a congressperson, elected official would actually be concerned about a constituent because he doesn't care. White House Chief of Staff John Kelly then held a rare news conference where he spent 20 minutes criticizing Wilson without using her name and incorrectly recounting a 2015 FBI dedication ceremony that Wilson gave in Miramar, Florida. Kelly said Wilson took undue credit for securing federal funding for a new FBI field office, but video evidence showed that Kelly was wrong. And he has yet to apologize for his remarks. And White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said that it's highly inappropriate to debate Kelly, a former four-star general. Well, give me a break. I guess it was inappropriate and, highly inappropriate that I used to, well, let's be clear. I guess I was harassing Edward Teller at the Pete's near the Claremont Resort Hotel. There in that part of Berkeley. I guess it could have been. But I suppose if you do something terrible, you should be taken to task, shouldn't you? Seems like that to me, but okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, a few dozen congressional Democrats wore red on Wednesday in honor of Wilson's longtime effort to bring back 113 missing Nigerian girls that were kidnapped in 2014 by the militant group Boko Haram. The Democrats spent Wednesday sticking I Stand with Frederica stickers onto their colleagues on the House floor. All right. Well, doesn't sound like a democracy to me. Sounds something a little bit different. But we'll attend to that at more length tomorrow, of course, because we're in that buffer period before Hartman comes up at about 6 minutes after the hour. We'll listen to Signs by Bad Martian Shri, Shri, in the interim before that. And I would suggest continue listening to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. And why? Well, because who loves you, baby? Okay, Wink. I have one more thing. I'll see you on the other side.
All right. We're out.